Everyone, Kathie here. Thanks so much for joining me. Finally have a project to share with you today using the November 2017 Paper Pumpkin Kit. I'll be sharing 3 cards, and then I'm probably going to have about 2-3 more videos to share with you. So hopefully you'll join me. All right, so we're going to start with the Dapper Denim full-size ink, the twine from the kit, and I made an itty bitty bow. We're going to use the stamp set and white piece of cardstock, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, 2 of the green pieces, the red tag banner, a white one, which I made, which is 2 1/4 by 3 1/2, and then wild wasabi, which measures, I believe, 4 inches by 5 1/2. And that was a quick look of the finished card. All right, we're going to start with making the sentiment. So with a white piece of cardstock and Dapper Denim, we're going to flip over the joy word and we're going to create a ho ho ho. All right, so we're going to stamp the first ho, and then the second and third, we're going to remove that little tail at the beginning of the H. So just do the best you can. And I do use a Stampin' Right marker, a Dapper Denim Stampin' Right marker, to kind of clean up and join the H's. But if you don't have that marker, you can stamp it in black ink, which will work out fine, and then use a fine tip black marker. And then for the O on the end of the last ho, we're going to use the little tail at the end of the Y, and then we'll just bring back that tail part so it looks more finished. And then here's where I'm just kind of cleaning up the between the 2 letters just to join them up. Okay, and then I did hand cut out the word and then put some foam tape on the back. So I made one off screen there. And then this stamp here, we're going to use the back side because it has like the longest section. And we're just going to ink that up with real red, and then we're just going to stamp along both sides of the card panel there to create like a candy cane effect. Now, this side looks nice and neat, but when you see the next side, I did a terrible job. I don't know why I didn't want to flip it, but I didn't want the curve to go the wrong direction, and I'm pretty sure I could have achieved it if I flipped it over. But nonetheless, once you put the wild wasabi panel over top, you won't even notice it unless you decide to count because they're not quite even, but it'll do. All right, so now for the 2 green pieces, just make sure that they're not on the right, back to back. Just kind of flip it over so that they're kind of one's going one direction, one the other, if you know what I mean. And then I did stick them down, one lower than the other. And then we'll just glue down that bottom part there so they don't come apart. And then here's that itty bitty little bow. So we just made a little mistletoe. Okay. And then with this stocking, I'm just showing you the piece here. It does measure 2 1/2 inches square. To be honest, it's a Studio Calico bag from my Studio Calico days, and I just thought I'd try it out. So when you cut the square out of the stocking, just make sure that you cut it straight along the grain, because you'll know what I mean once I'm finished. When you're kind of fraying the edges there, as the thread pieces are coming out, you're going to notice that it kind of goes in a slant. That's because I didn't cut it square on, but that's okay. It's a little bit off. And with a sharp pair of scissors, which mine aren't, we'll just cut it square again. But just, note that when you cut that stocking, make sure you cut it square along the grain. And that way you won't have it kind of crooked. All right, moving on to the red flag tail banner piece there. I just cut that in half just to elongate that. And then back to that canvas piece, I cut a 2-inch square cardstock, which I was going to use for something else, but decided not to. We're just going to stick the canvas over top of that so that That way it won't be so flimsy, basically. And then I put some foam tape on the back, and then we're going to stick that down kind of like in a diamond shape onto the banner there. And then we're going to stick that at the top of the card panel. Okay, and then we're ready for our mistletoe. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we'll glue down the ho ho ho. I just remove the adhesive on the back, and then we'll just center that. And then the additional thing I did was I have a 1/8 hole punch, and I just kind of scribbled some real red onto a white cardstock and then stamped a bunch of those because I didn't want to waste my red cardstock. So that's the first card. I hope you enjoyed it. I actually really like how it turned out. It's kind of a cheerful, happy colors. So here's a couple of stills, and then in just a moment we're going to move on to the second card. All right, we're going to be using the stamp set and the full-size Dapper Denim along with Soft Sky, and then a white piece of cardstock and real red. So the real red is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then the white card panel, you can leave it at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 and then cut it down to 4 inches. And we're going to start off with Soft Sky, and we're going to stamp the snowflake. So we're basically going to stamp along the top and down the side a bit with the snowflakes. So I kind of did it in a sporadic pattern, and then I filled in the blank spots. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the Christmas tree next. And when you do the tree, make sure you are stamping straight across. So I did do this about 3 times, and my tree line ended up being crooked, and it doesn't look too nice if it's crooked. So you can maybe draw a pencil line to follow just in case. Okay, so now we're done with the Soft Sky. We're going to move on to the Dapper Denim, and then we're going to do the darker colors. Now the first one there, I did a low one, and then the rest we're just going to kind of fill in. But don't fill it in too much, because whatever's left in spaces, we're going to stamp the little star. Okay, and then now back to the tree. So we're going to stamp in between the Soft Sky. And again, just make sure you're straight across. Mine ended up being just slightly slanted, but it's good enough. And make sure it's inked up really good, because you don't want to double stamp. All right, and then I flipped it over using the same stamp along with Soft Sky. I'm just going to stamp sporadically along the bottom there just to fill it in and to give it a little bit of texture. And then back to Dapper Denim. With a blending tool, I am just going to sponge along the edge there and along the sides just to give it some depth. And then we'll also do the bottom. And I do have a piece of paper towel there because you're going to pick up the ink and then you'll leave your fingerprints. So, all right, now we're going to stamp sentiment in the center. We're going to stamp the Let It Snow. So I was being super careful here to make sure it's straight and in the center. And I think I did a pretty good job. So that's it. And, you know, I did cut it down to 4 inches by 5 1/2, and then I stuck the real red panel onto a side folding card base, and then I just put that, or stuck it down the center of that real red, and then I used some silver sequins just to add a little bit of oomph. Now you could put it along the snowflakes, but I just thought I'd leave it at that because I did want to cover up just a little mark there that bugged me. All right, so that is the second card, couple of stills of the finished look, and I think it turned out really great. So minimal items that you need to make this card. All right, and then on to the last card, Dapper Denim again, white card panel, and then I have four or five of those green leaves, but I think we're only going to use 4 of them. First, we're going to stamp the sentiment, kind of off-centered. Okay, and then we're going to sponge the bottom left corner of that card panel and then towards the center and along the edges there. And remember, it does fade, so you can get it just a little bit darker. And then we're going to stamp 3 snowflakes. And I could have done a star also next to the snowflakes, but I'm just going to keep it simple. And then here are the green leaves. I just stuck down one, and then the second one I just shortened it a bit and then tucked that behind the tip of that first leaf. And then we're going to do the same for the third one, just shorten that a little bit. And then the fourth leaf, I did remove an actual leaf. And then that extra leaf there, I did stick it down right there, just so that I didn't waste it. And then here is a ratty bow that I've had on my desk forever. It really is Melon Mambo. I just didn't want to throw it out, so I thought I'd just use it on this card. I cut the card down to 4 inches by 5 1/4, and I backed it onto real red. And it is a side folding card panel or card base. So that's it. It could have used maybe some jewels on there, something sparkly on each of the snowflakes, but I'm just going to keep it simple. I hope you enjoyed today's 3 cards. Here's a look of all 3 of them. Please stick around. I have 5 more cards that are done. I just need to do the voiceover. And I have some 3D projects that I'm going to share with you using the stockings. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye for now.